So Colonial Stronghold Part 2. Once again, as the British Empire began to decline post-World War II, the British elites, they saw their wealth dwindling, their privileges and the empire. They began to look for a new role in the changing world. What did they do? They came up with a spider web to still loop everybody in, stealing their resources, while the face that you're looking at will be your brother. So they will tell you, oh, I have left. Your president is your brother. It's one of you guys. And we know that he's not truly in charge. The British Empire is the largest empire the world has ever known. It ruled for over 300 years, invading, stealing, killing, maiming, conquering independent kingdoms and nations. And we can see from this spider web that they have taken over the secret world of finance. Oh, Diego, the person that got the money is the person that will do the deed. So they understood that. While you thought you were getting independence, they were actually stealing a whole lot of you. I wish it's even better for them, because before they have to come up with a machine gun to keep you down and doing this. Now they are just relaxing in Cayman Island and the money is coming without them making any noise. What a business deal. So how did this transformation change the world that we live in? How did the policies and the regulations and the secrecy protect the owners of the stolen wealth across the globe? Why are there more banks in London than any other place? It's not by accident, it was by design. And then we will be looking into how British offshore financial worlds, how they have this sophisticated cheating system that help the colonial puppets in Africa cheat their people, communities, and countries. So it's not that difficult to understand what has happened to us. So let's continue with this video from where we stopped last week. Please continue to help us to share and like and all those things. We shall win. Once again, we do want to thank those that reached out about the video show from last week. We are always here to take your phone calls. You can email us, you can message us, you can chat us up, you can call us. I'll post the phone number later on so that we can put heads together. These people are not smarter than you. You can see the president in the Harvard. The president doesn't know what genocide means. She doesn't know the president. That's where Ngozi Okonjo went. She doesn't know the difference between genocide and free speech. They don't know anymore. The same way a Supreme Court justice doesn't know the difference between male and female. You can see we're in a very big quagmire. So that's why we need to understand what we need to do to be able to take back our sovereignty and begin to build a nation that our future generation will benefit from. I will start from here.
That blocked attempts again to set up this World Tax Organization. So why would they not want to have democratic decision making in global decisions on how tax gets collected across borders? I don't understand this. As long as we have cross-border activity that involves both criminal and legal activity, as long as we're unable to separate the two, this is going to continue to be a problem.
Western nations block attempts to provide greater transparency of international financial flows and the implementation of global standards for the collection of tax across borders, whilst elites in developing nations use offshore centers to hide their wealth offshore.
The oil from Gabon has not benefited people in Gabon. And this is true for the copper in Zambia, for the gold in Mozambique or in Mali. They have benefited the company that do extract it and their shareholders. It has benefited the corrupt elite in the country.
In developing countries, the offshore system of tax havens has facilitated the looting of these countries by their elites. It has enabled them to steal the money and keep it safe somewhere else.
Illicit financial flows, because the anonymity that drives them creates incentives for people in positions of power to be corrupt. This is why there's a group of countries where development progress is so difficult. It's that the incentives of individuals and the ability to pursue them through all the mechanisms that underpin illicit flows outweigh the type of mechanisms that lead you to a powerful, representative, effective state that can start to deliver development.
Worldwide, developing countries lose over $1 trillion every year in capital flight and tax.
Do we hear that? Worldwide, we lose $1 trillion every year. We lose $1 trillion. Just imagine that in your head. Every year, we lose $1 trillion every year. These are the ones that are accounted for, though, that are accounted for. It's not the ones that we don't know about. These are the ones they can actually track that we are talking about. So it could potentially be $10 trillion every month. And yet, our young ones are dying at the Mediterranean Sea.
Evasion. Most of this wealth flows into large Western nations like the United States and Britain and enables their currencies to stay strong, whilst developing nations' currencies remain weak. But illicit flows into Western nations also had another unexpected side effect. The economies of the United States and Britain began to financialize. The origins of this financialization, or de-industrialization, go back to the 1960s.
Anti-war demonstrators protest U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War in mass marches, rallies, and demonstrations. President Johnson, meanwhile, let it be known that the FBI is closely watching all anti-war activity.
In the 1960s, U.S. economist Michael Hudson was working at Chase Manhattan Bank on Wall Street as Chase's balance of payments economist.
During the 1960s, the United States balance of payments deficit was entirely a result of foreign military expenditures.
Dollars were flowing out of the United States as a result of the cost of the Vietnam War. The United States attempted to prevent the dollars flowing to Vietnam from being deposited in foreign banks.
The government asked Chase to set up a branch in Saigon during the Vietnam War. And as you can imagine, it didn't have windows. It was sort of a fortress. It lost money, but the government went to Chase because it said, if you don't get this money that's being thrown off by the military in Vietnam, then it's going to go into French banks. It'll get to General de Gaulle, and you know what he's going to do every month. He's going to cash it in for gold. That's what the United States was trying to stop.
The US was not successful in stopping the outflow of money, so it began to hatch a different plan. In 1967, Michael Hudson was handed a memo by a former State Department employee.
In 1967, I was given by a former State Department employee in the elevator at Chase Manhattan a memo from the State Department urging that Chase Manhattan would take the lead in helping the United States become the Switzerland of the world, meaning the flight capital. The State Department, through Chase, asked me to estimate how much money do you think is available if America were to become the new Switzerland, and how do we do it? The plan was to organize offshore banking centers in the Caribbean and elsewhere, and the hot money wouldn't come directly into Chase because that wouldn't be nice and very legal. What happened was that the Latin American criminals, other criminals, drug dealers, all sorts of organized crime would put their money in the offshore Caribbean banks, and these offshore banks would then deposit the inflow in the head office.
By moving offshore dollars back into the United States, the US was able to stop the outflow of dollars and support the value of its currency.
Every country looks to its foreign exchange rate. And the foreign exchange rate is not only imports and exports, it's capital movements. And if you look at the International Monetary Fund's monthly international financial statistics, you have sort of a steady balance of trade, a steady immigrants' remittances. What goes up and down are called errors and omissions. What the United Nations and the IMF call errors and omissions are flight capital. It's the reason that it's omitted is they don't like to really look at this. In the 1930s, Roy Ovid Hall, economist for the U.S. Commerce Department, wanted to include criminal movements in the balance of payment statistics. And Congress got very upset. I was told in Washington, the argument was, we're a Christian country. We don't want to report crime. It's just, don't look at it. And they forbid him to include criminal money in the balance of payments. I guess now you call it errors and omissions. You don't call it criminal inflow and outflow.